Hello, my name is Giancarlo DeVera. I'm a university student at the University of New South Wales studying arts law, majoring in development studies, my arts degree, and I am the co-executive director of Breaking Down Boundaries. Breaking Down Boundaries was an organisation that I started up with a few friends of mine from varying Sydney universities with the ultimate aim of addressing the lack of efficient and sufficient change in the legal system. We noted that there was a gap between the profession and the practice of law, and how the social justice, how the legal system and the justice system can incorporate special interest needs of special interest groups and minority groups. Our main audience is law students, and so we actually invite law students from across the country to come to Sydney to partake in the conference. And actually, thankfully enough, last year we had people from New Zealand come along. So that's quite a exciting idea, a prospect that the conference is going beyond this country. The long-term effect of this organisation, the envisioned effect of this organisation, is to actually cultivate a sense of social justice within the legal education system here in Australia. By addressing the lack of social justice and how it's incorporated in our legal education, we hope to actually bring about the change that is needed to bridge the gap that I was mentioning earlier between the practice of the law and the social justice issues and effects of contemporary Australia and the rest of the world. When we started organising last year's conference in 2009, we recognised that we had a pivotal role in addressing the lack of incorporation of social justice issues and concerns in our legal education. We wanted to look at issues that had a very different and unassuming role in becoming the more socially progressive lawyer that we want Australian law students to become. We wanted to actually focus upon, as an organising team, on issues that had immediate effect and had a practical effect on the world and in Australia. We wanted to instill within the people who attended the conference the idea that what they were learning in their legal education could be diversified and be applied in seemingly unrelated ways. And so that is ultimately where we are hoping to go into for future conferences, by looking at kind of further cutting-edge legal issues that are on the pulse, of the Australian society and the international community. I think the best example of being on the pulse is last year we also looked at the human rights obligations, or rather the criminality behind human rights abuses that are committed by transnational organisations. That is a largely unexplored area of the law in international law, because for one, international law is so fragmented. But beyond that point, it became, I suppose, a very prominent issue because of the fact that it was affecting the livelihoods of the people on the ground in such adverse ways that the law could not react. It was no longer dynamic in the way the law operated in these countries, because of issues of jurisdiction, issues of where the buck stops. That is one example of where we wanted to instill the idea within the people who attend the conference that the law in itself, not only did it have a practical application in seeming and unseeming ways, but at the same time it also involved creativity. Because where things are uncharted, where the waters are uncharted, the law has to evolve. And so, drawing back to the fact that I mentioned to the purported aim before about solidifying the resolve, this is ultimately what we are trying to do. In 2008 there were 4 forums, in 2009 there were 5 forums. So they form the crux of the events for the conference. But aside from the forums, we also look at non-traditional career paths. We want to be able to expose law students who have the requisite skills to obviously to partake and work in corporate and at the bar, corporate firms at the bar. But we recognise that their skills are also very much needed in the not-profit sector, in NGOs and in government departments and the like. And so we Last year we had quite a lot of international organisations come along. We had a lot of government organisations come along, including Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade and the Attorney General's Department, along with small NGOs like Reprieve, which is an American NGO that looks at death sentences and the life and death penalties in the US. And we also wanted to explore on how we also wanted to look at and expose them to avenues and volunteer opportunities within which they can participate in while they're at university. So we had other organisations such as the United Nations Youth Association and the Left Right Think Tank and other like-minded organisations like the Anti-Poverty Week and the Social Justice Centre. So that is another aspect of our conference. We want to be able to, through solidifying the result of Australia's future progressive lawyers, we wanted to expose to them the idea of venturing out and embarking upon non-traditional legal career paths as well. I think the law also has to play a particularly important role in ensuring that everyone knows that these issues are out there and need to be addressed. The more we hear the voice of those that are marginalised, the more that we hear the voice of those who are being affected and being treated unequally under the law, the better that Australia can be. The impact that it has on future Australia is very much going to be decided by how the law is relegated and reformed, because ultimately things cannot be reformed if the issues aren't brought to the fore. And so that is where Breaking Down Boundaries hopes to step in. From a personal point of view, I can be safe with the knowledge that Australia will be able to be as inclusive as much as possible. And that is, as idealistic as that may sound, it does have a profound effect on the quality of life we have in this country. It has a profound effect on social cohesion. It has a profound effect on how we interrelate with each other. So that is where the law needs to change. That is how the law affects minority groups, because it needs to listen better, it needs to act better and more decisively and not incrementally. And we do want to be able to have a legal system in this country that is dynamic and responsive to the needs of minorities as much as possible, insofar that they're able to engage with their issues and their respective realities, to ensure that they, despite their diverse backgrounds, are able to actually be better citizens of Australia.